speaker. New Woodford.
What's up, everybody?
Hey guys, how you doing?
Coming in mid-conversation.
Yeah, talking about the bourbon we're drinking.
Yeah.
Is that not on brand?
We are in the speakeasy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's cold outside. This is bourbon weather if I've
is.
ever
Yes,
seen
it
it.
is.
It is bourbon weather. What are we drinking today? We got I'm drinking Willet Rye.
Yeah.
I think it's a 6-year.
We were just talking about how we're drinking the new Woodford barrel proof that you brought in that is pretty damn good.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It really is.
Oh, are we live? There we go.
No, we are just now on Instagram.
Oh, cool.
So
This is why you need a producer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now-
Producer, thank you.
Yeah.
now we're live on Instagram.
Perfect. Well, today we've got a returning guest here, Paul Beets. He's a neighbor, really like all of us. But I think Brooks, you could throw a football and hit his house from yours.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame we don't see each other more.
Yeah,
We need to do a better job of that.
Bree and I were just talking about that.
I was
because
thinking about that the other day.
I knew where you live, but Bree still wasn't real sure. And I was like, I should have put on a map. This is where we live. This is where he lives. She's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah. It's the one with the loud dog.
Yeah, the one with the dog outside.
And I said, literally, it's a 5-minute walk.
Yeah. 5 minute if you're
In
limping.
fact, our son has friends that are in your neighborhood, but far in the back.
Mhm.
And one day he asked us, hey, can I go see, I don't know, Malcolm or whatever his name is? And one of us, not knowing where Malcolm lives, said yes. And so he ended up way over, where the fountain's at,
Mhm.
over by CVS?
Yep.
That's where he was at.
Okay.
That's our
And
liquor
he
store.
walked there from my house.
Yeah, so he definitely passed my house.
Yeah, and that's what I told him. I said, Bree, he walked past
Yeah.
his house.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, I don't understand why we don't see him more often.
Yeah. Well,
Well, you were up in Detroit for a while. Back and
was.
forth from Michigan, I guess I should
you were
say.
up in Detroit, and then also you got invited to Friendsgiving, and neither one of you guys is coming. Yeah, I want.
Calling us out on it.
I put that on the books in August, and I still am getting the stiff arm from both
So
of you
to be
guys.
fair, it was on the calendar.
But your wife wasn't
My
even sure.
wife did not share that with me.
So funny story at the and we'll talk a little bit about the investor symposium here in a sec. But I thought I put my foot in my mouth there because I see Bree. I haven't seen her in forever. She comes up, tackles me in the bar, and I say, "Oh, hey, am I going to see you at the Friendsgiving?" And she goes, "What Friendsgiving?" And I'm like, "Oh shoot!" Like I text Diane. I'm like, "Hey, I'm schmuck. I need you to invite Bree." And I like sorry. And then she's like, Bree was the first person who RSVP'd yes.
Yeah.
And so Bree was throwing shade at us with a couple of different people for not being invited to the Friendsgiving, but she actually was. So I'm definitely giving her a hard time because she's actually going to be there.
Yes, but
So-
I didn't know about it,
Yeah.
and so I am traveling for business.
Fair.
Not
Fair.
just,
I won't hold it against you. We'll have to get you guys out
for
later
sure.
in the season. But
sure.
but on that note, the investor symposium just happened. Just to
Yes.
place this in time here for anybody who's listening after the fact. What out of curiosity, you're a local investor now. You've been doing this for years. What did you get out of the investor symposium having gone there?
Well, I'll start with a shout out to Evan and Clay and the Mainstay Group.
They crushed it.
They crushed it. I love this event. I love that they do it every year. I can't imagine that it is a net gain for them.
No, we were just
Financially?
talking about
Yeah.
that.
And so it really is a commitment to real estate in Indianapolis and bringing people together. And so from that perspective, I just thank them for
Mhm.
that service to the group.
Mhm.
I really enjoyed it. I got a lot more out of probably the piece that I got the most out of is the networking.
Mhm.
So I told this to Evan during the symposium, or even Sadie. I said, this is in my mind, the diamond, the jewel of this event is the opportunity to network with other investors.
To them for your client.
And
Sorry, guys.
I really like that all of them come to town. Almost always it's the same people, but there's always a couple new people that come into town.
Yeah.
And we do, on Thursday night, we do something here downtown Carmel. On Friday night, there's the social thing downtown. And I don't know, there used to be a thing on Saturday. You know who we used to do the Simple?
Simple used
do
to,
that thing.
yeah.
And that's where I met my partner.
Is that the Simple event?
Is at the Simple event. So networking, you know, real estate is a people business.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. And it's not what you know, it's who do you know. And that's what I always get. I always get that out of there. I'll just give you one story here. You know, my wife, she does short-term rentals, Bree, we were talking about earlier. You know, she's trying to decide, is she going to continue to grow her business? There's, you know, Airbnb and regulations and stuff like that. She's just kind of get a little disillusioned with it. So we're trying to figure out what we're going to do, right? And we get enormous tax breaks.
Yeah.
Because
she's a real estate
professional from an IRS perspective. So I don't really pay any federal tax. So we read it to Ted King at the social hour, or the what do they call that?
The mixer.
The mixer on Friday night. Ted King and his whole table, his whole staff were there.
Mhm.
And Ted King and my wife started talking about insurance. So when my wife and I first met, I lived in Indianapolis. She lived in Flora. You know where Flora is at, up north. And when she moved down here to move in with me, she got a job with an insurance company here in town. And she sold insurance during that period of time. So it was a natural fit. Ted's growing. He's a great guy to work with. And so I actually just, before I arrived here, we were having coffee with Ted.
Oh, nice.
And it looks like she's going to come on.
Something going to happen there?
And be an insurance agent with Ted.
That's awesome.
Nice.
So it's just an example. Like we don't run into Ted. We don't run in, you know, and a lot of Ted's business is rental related. Not all of it, but a lot of it is. And so it's just a very natural fit. We have a very broad real estate, you know, network, and it's a natural fit there. So there's been so many things like that have come out of the symposium. Mike and Marie and the self-storage, not Ted, Bree going to work for him. That's kind of a secondary income to her short-term rental income. So I would just encourage everybody, if you want to get in real estate or you're already in real estate, but you're not doing it, networking, going and to as many events as you can. And symposium is a great forum for that.
Yeah, I'd love to reiterate that. You know, I was obviously one of the sponsors of Off Leash Construction of the event. And, you know, I go into that thinking I'm going to be the one adding all the value. That's, you know, that's my role there as the seasoned investor.
Calm down. Your chest is too big right now.
Yeah. And what I really realized is I walked away. You know, I very rarely have the opportunity to sit down with you. I feel like I learned a lot from you there, listening to some of the things that you were saying in your panel. I learned a lot from the lender that was out there who's been doing this for years and has hundreds of millions of dollars worth of lendable capital. And I want to reiterate the fact that it's a networking event. Yeah. I've, you know, got, you know, X number of rentals out there. I've done a bajillion flips up to this point. Yeah. And, you know, I was still going out there. I was making relationships. Hell, I think we just got added on as a new vendor for the property manager PMI who was there. Oh, yeah. So I like wildly valuable. No matter if, you know, this is your 0th deal or your 100th deal, I think you can still get a ton of value. And if you walk out of that event and you don't have your core 4+ filled out, if you don't have your agent figured out, if you don't have your insurance agent, if you don't have your contractor, if you don't have your entire team built out at that point, you're doing something wrong. It means you're not even trying.
Sure. Not only that, or at least a recommendation to meet with somebody to be one of those core 4.
Absolutely.
And I mean, because me and you have never done self-storage, to my knowledge. I don't think you have. So I mean, if if Paul goes up and talks about it, I'm going to listen because I've never done it a day in my life. So
Yeah.
he knows a whole lot more than I do about that, and vice versa with like construction or wholesaling or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You should be able to learn something there. Nobody knows everything. So
Absolutely.
somebody has a little nugget or doing something new that
Yeah.
is working for them that you didn't think of.
Yep.
So
And I'll say they did a really good job of tightening it up. It was a 1-day event plus a mixer the night before. I think that was the right amount of time. I think that was a really good, really good situation. So any closing thoughts there on Symposium before?
Just looking forward to next year. I hope, I told Evan, I told Sadie, I said, please let me know how I can help. It's, I encourage everybody to, if you're not aware of it or you just now hearing about it, look for it next year. Hopefully come into town and visit with us.
yeah, I look forward to it. I'm bummed I didn't get to go this year because I was out of town, but
We should do a speakeasy podcast live from.
Yeah. You think I can get people to drive up here to Carmel to do
I
it?
don't know. Maybe you can, do like a Wednesday afternoon podcast or even a Thursday before the Carmel mixer. Because there are some people that come into Carmel for just that. So.
If I didn't have food poisoning that night, I would have been there.
Sure.
That was a disaster. But well, cool, man. What then? I guess what's new here in the self-storage space? I know you and I were on a panel talking a little bit about alternative real estate. What's going on in your world there?
Yeah, so self-storage has been slow lately.
Oh, what do you mean by that?
There's a lot of deals to be had, but we're having trouble making numbers on those deals.
Is that just because of the interest rates? The same way people are really struggling from
interest rates, and I think some lenders are a little tight on LTVs and stuff like that. So, if you're not only are you looking at for cash flow, but also how much do you have to raise to close a deal, and the LTVs impact that as well. And of course, you raise more money in a higher interest rate. Now your total return on investment for the raise is lower. So it's a tough business right now from an acquisition. There are people that are buying them up left and right now. And I don't know if they're all cash deals and they've got some big capital or what's going on. But we do a lot of underwriting. We look at a lot of deals that come across our table, and we just haven't been able to get any deals done this year. And it's been tough, right? I was really hoping to get some deals done this year. So one of the things that we've done in the meantime, we are vertically integrated. So we have our own property management company and we have our own marketing company. And that's probably the new thing. I don't know, we talked too much about it last time I was on, but in the meantime, we're looking for ways that we can reduce expenses on existing facilities, increase occupancy on existing facilities. And we had started working with a marketing company probably now 2 years ago, where they take a lot of different self-storage owners or facilities, and they put them on a single website, a single domain, self-storage units nearby. And the idea is that if you're investing in digital marketing, search engine optimization under a single domain, it's kind of the tide raises all boats. And we were with them for 8 months maybe, and it really made a big difference in our new tenants' move-ins. And unfortunately, one thing led to another. I think there was some squabbles amongst the owners. It was still a fairly small company. They became kind of unstable. And so because we had a good experience and we didn't want to lose that and have to start over with somebody else, my partner and I got together and we acquired all of the assets of the company. And then we went out and hired our own SEO expert. And so now, we're kind of vertically integrated from a marketing perspective as well. So one of the things that we're really focused on right now is polishing our property management operations, trying to get those, add new clients to that. The more clients that we have, the better our operations get. And to some extent, it's the economies of scale, the more people, more facilities, more clients that we have, the cheaper it gets for everybody to manage those facilities. And then same thing with the marketing. We're working at growing new clients for the marketing company as well.
So let's talk about the marketing company here really quick, because I think that's really, really interesting. You were talking a little bit about how kind of throwing it all under one URL adds value. Can you like describe like actually get granular there a little bit with it? Like, what's the URL? Like, is it like selfstorage.com/Carmel, selfstorage.com, like how's it work?
It is a little bit like that. So the URL or the domain is selfstorageunitsnearby.com.
Okay.
It's a little bit long of a domain, but
it's self-explanatory.
It's self-explanatory, right? and then of course, it's / bigger garage is our facilities, but it's also / whatever our client is, and then / their locations.
Gotcha. So like it would be bigger garage / Carmel.
Right. Exactly.
Gotcha.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but the idea is that we're investing dollars into improving the search engine optimization for that URL. And all of these facilities drive traffic to that URL because that's where their tenants can pay their bills and where they can rent new units. So the more traffic, the higher the reputation of that given URL. And then the more Google business profiles that reference that URL, now we've got a lot of different locations, a lot of different Google business profiles. That raises the domain authority for that URL. So as we continue to invest in this, that URL becomes kind of a higher authority. And so when you're searching for storage, especially in a given area, it's going to come up higher on the rankings than other things.
Yeah, the more backlinks you have, the more successful you are.
And so that's another thing that we do, like biggergarage.com, what we used before. It now forwards to our specific URL, right? We kind of have a page within that domain.
Yeah.
And a lot of our clients we do that with, right? They have a page within that domain. And so, we have a client up north, smartstorage.com. So if you go to smartstorage.com, it's going to forward to that domain.
Gotcha.
So the more we get that going, the more clients that we have, the better the search engine optimization is for all clients.
Now, are you just doing self-storage clients?
Just self-storage, yeah. And actually, just before I walked in here, Bree was talking about, the short-term rental space is changing to some extent. Airbnb, they're still the big player, but there's a lot of other players in town, and a lot of big operators are getting to the point where, like, she had met with an operator that has 30 Airbnbs, arbitrage, and they own some of them. And they're looking for a way, how can we diversify away from Airbnb so that we're not reliant on Airbnb for our bookings and for our marketing, right? And so the idea is maybe, short-term rentals nearby, right? And you can aggregate to some extent a very similar thing. And then Google's coming out with a form of the Google business profile that's specific to short-term rentals, and it's also specific to self-storage facilities. So when you go on Google Maps and you search for a place to stay in Carmel, Indiana, not only are you going to get hotels, but you could potentially get short-term rentals, individual locations.
Are they already doing this?
They are.
In small areas, yes.
I was going to say, I feel like I had this happen to me recently.
I have ours set up for the wilds with Google.
Okay.
Yeah. I wouldn't count on it being a big. Google has a history of halfway investing in 1 million projects and then half-assing it and then cutting it when it's not like wildly successful. So like I wouldn't build your business on top of it, but it's a good way of diversifying. I do think there's value in a lot of these companies.
It doesn't cost anything to do it, right?
Yeah, it doesn't cost any. Well, time, some resourcing, but yeah, I think building your own websites. I think we have offleashrentals.com for all of our local ones, so that we get our recurring business through there.
Right.
Because so many of our customers are repeat customers, so I definitely recommend that. I do want to kind of get back to the marketing company. Is this a similar phenomenon to like what you see with companies that use like Appfolio or something like that, where you've got kind of like, let's say, matlock.appfolio.com, which essentially allows them to have their entire backend associated with it, the available listings and all of that then again goes towards the Appfolio URL.
So I'm not super familiar with what Appfolio does for long-term rentals versus self-storage. But what I will say is that our facility management software, we use StoreEdge. Our facility management software, it plugs into the website. And so all of my clients that are listed on the website with our facilities, they, when we are driving new tenants to the website, they're able to go in there and make a reservation through the website. And that's directly tied to the facility management software. And so that reservation shows up as a lead in the facility management software.
Gotcha.
So yes, and it is integrated to that backend. I think probably Appfolio is very similar, right? You go to the website and it's going to add a lead into Appfolio.
Right? Dude, that's awesome. That makes a lot of sense. By the way, you've transitioned now over to a Hard Truth. It's the Mellencamp release that they did. So
excellent.
Yeah. For anybody who's not familiar, Hard Truth is a distillery down in Nashville, Indiana, that they've really been doing some cool stuff recently. They're fantastic. They do really good whiskey. They're starting to do their own juice, which is nice. And so it's been fun to see them kind of grow up.
And juice.
Oh, well, that's what I mean. It's their own distillate. They you usually have to wait anywhere from 4 to 6 years before you can start like using the stuff that you made yourself because of the whole aging process.
Yeah.
So it's been fun. They're 15 minutes from my venue, so really cool spot. So, well, dude, that's awesome on the marketing side. Glad to hear that. Glad to hear that's going well. Sounds like acquisitions have been a little slow. How have things been going from like an operational perspective? Is demand, like, I obviously have an understanding of, kind of the weird market that's currently existing for the housing market, but like what's going on from like a rental demand on that side?
Yeah, it follows the housing market pretty closely. So like, overall, I think housing sales are down.
Yeah.
And which means that the number of people moving around is down, which means that.
So it's tied to the transaction market, not necessarily
the transaction market.
Gotcha.
Correct. It's not necessarily changed to the number of houses for sale but transactions are definitely. There's a little bit of that, but there's also kind of like divorces. There's deaths in the family.
So during COVID and all that.
Oh yeah,
that was
COVID. A lot of businesses got rebound years in 21 and 22 from COVID. Self-storage was no different. We got big rebounds. I wish I would have owned more in 21, 22 than I do. But it's pretty tight right now because I think inflation has eaten disposable incomes of a lot of people, and so we've gotten a lot of people move out saying, "Hey, I can't afford this. I'm going to just store it in my neighbor's barn," I found a friend of mine is going to let me park my RV in his driveway, or there's stuff like that that's going on, that they're just trying to find a way to reduce costs. And it's really, every one of our facilities is in a slightly different market and is performing differently. The two newest facilities are probably struggling the most. We've stabilized them. They're probably they're making as much as they could make where we're at. We just need to try to figure a way to increase occupancy, and some of that I think is just improving our marketing, which we're constantly working on. And the economy's got to recover, and I don't know that it's, inflation is really a rate, right? And so now that the rate of inflation is lower, all we can really wait for is wages to catch up. And in some markets, those wages could be years before they catch up.
Is there a theme in the markets that are doing well and that are not doing so well in terms of like jobs, like relative income or average income or anything like that?
Yeah, my feeling, my gut, I don't really have the metrics to prove it, but my feeling is we're doing the best in markets where the amount of self-storage per capita is low,
Okay.
right? There's just not enough storage to service the number
Yeah.
of per capita number of people in the area. I'll just give you an example. Whiteland, Indiana is probably one of our most busy. I don't know if I'd say it's the best performing, but it's the most busy of any of our facilities because Whiteland is growing like crazy. Like
Mhm.
Greenwood's built out. Whiteland is growing very quickly, and it's really Whiteland's filling in between Greenwood and Franklin. And even Franklin is
Mhm.
growing. So, we're right in that in between there on a major highway, a major 2-lane or 4-lane highway. And they're building an HOA controlled subdivision literally right behind our facility. So, and there's a lot of houses going in. And so from a transaction volume in that area, I would say transactions are probably up down there
Yeah.
because they're building and selling. And so, we have 60 parking spots. And when we first bought the facility, I think we were selling them for $60 or $70 a spot. And in some cases, they're going for 150 to 200 a spot. And we keep on raising rates to kind of find where's the market at. And we haven't found it yet. And so we have people that naturally move out saying it's gotten too salty for them. And then people move right in behind them.
That's the one the tornado took down like the fence and everything, right?
Yes.
Because I remember that came through at the same time when I was doing a flip down there and we were talking about that.
Yeah, we got very, very lucky because the tornado went just south of our facility. And really the only reason why we ended up with damage is because the tornado that went south, it caught the power lines. And when they brought one power line down, all of the power lines pulled all the other power lines down, and those power poles fell on top of our fence.
Yeah.
But other than that, like none of the campers had any damage whatsoever. None of our storage buildings had it. I think there was a panel that probably should have been better secured on our warehouse that got blown off. But that's about it.
That's not bad.
We got very, very lucky.
That's awesome.
And unfortunately, there were a lot of people that were a lot less lucky than we were.
Yeah, and the first thing I thought about when we were talking about that was, like when I was working for the company that I worked for when I first moved here, we acquired a boat business and that had ended up getting a huge fire, and which was kind of similar to like the self-storage in terms of like self-storage houses a lot of boats during certain points of the year.
Yeah.
As were we, and that insurance claim was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Especially for a business that we had just bought that had nothing on hard drives. It was all paper. So
yeah,
that was fun. But yeah, I remember us talking about that. And I'm like, oh, you are so lucky.
yeah.
So with transactions not being super hot right now, filling those vacancies sounds like isn't the easiest thing in the world, which makes sense why they're leaning into a marketing company right now. And
right. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't get much better than being able to turn the knobs on the marketing company itself rather than working with a vendor and kind of pushing that vendor to get more out of without raising what you pay them. Right. So we like where we're at. We feel like our marketing offerings are different. We differentiate ourselves from other marketing vendors. And the proof is in the pudding, right? Out of 6 facilities, 4 of them are all in the mid 80s from an occupancy perspective.
Wow.
And then
what are you targeting? Like what would be an optimal?
80 to 90%.
Okay.
If you are above 90%, your rates are too low.
Gotcha.
Right. So we raise our rates until we get within that 80 to 90% occupancy. That way there's always a unit in there that's overpriced that somebody really needs, they'll rent.
Yeah.
And that meets our numbers. And, in addition to that, almost all of our facilities are mixed use properties. So they've got commercial spaces on the same parcel as, so, in Muncie, we have an insurance agent office in the building on the parcel. Down in Whiteland, we've got 3 different businesses in those. It's basically flex space,
Mm.
right? Warehouse and office space. And then up in LaPorte, we have a 3,000 square foot office that's rented out by a logistics company.
Nice.
So all of the facilities, those commercial spaces are rented out at market rates.
Yeah.
And then the self-storage mid 80s, and we're just chipping away at trying to get the other two facilities up where we want them.
Yeah. So I know, we all aspire to our businesses being passive and being, just kind of, you sit on a couch, eat bonbons, and watch the money come in.
Yeah.
I happen to know, having talked to you a little bit this last weekend, that it's not always that easy in the self-storage space. You generally will get better returns than if you were in the single family space, for instance, but you're probably gonna have to work for it. So are you willing to tell a little bit of that story you told me this weekend? With the parts you can.
Oh yeah. So the one that I was down in. Okay, so the gun thing. Right? Yeah. So absolutely, you want your facility, your office, or your business to be as passive as possible. I'm not one to give up too much, and so people living in units in self storage, it's not a new thing. It's a known thing. Something that we watch out very closely with, and I think even since this incident happened, we've gotten a lot better at monitoring our cameras and making sure it's not happening. So essentially roughly a year ago, because I'm at last year's social mixer on Friday night, and I stepped out into the Circle City Mall area and was talking to one of my call center agents that's in the Philippines about this person that was trying to move in, and she was trying to rent out one of the larger units that we've got. And in the warehouse commercial space, we've got 3 suites, but in the back there's this garage that's like cordoned off from the other parts. And we were just trying to rent it as just another storage space, but it was one of the larger spaces on the property for storage. And I was just excited to get somebody to rent it because I think we were renting it for like $280 a month. And that's a lot higher than any of the other units. And so I guess even at that time, we were, it's not a traditional storage unit, so it doesn't have a lock, a sliding lock. We don't, it has a garage door opener, so when this lady rented it out, there were some complications with getting her moved in. And that's probably the first red, people are typically a little irritated that it's just not a turnkey process. And this lady was very, very accommodating, very, very, accepting of all the problems that it was. So fast forward from that evening, probably 2 weeks. I'm sad to say 2 weeks. I get a call in the morning from one of my tenants. He's a trucker. He parks his rig on our facility property or in the parking lot. And at 6 a.m., he arrived and the gate was wide open. Now we have an automated gate, opens and closes. It's got passive exit, so you just pull up, but you have to put in a keypad on the way in. And so I went back to the cameras to see what's going on. And what I see is somebody from the inside of the facility tampering with the gate controller that's like usually locked on the inside, right? And so then one thing leads another. I follow him around, and he's basically living with a young lady in this storage unit. And I don't know how deep the rabbit hole goes, but I spent quite a bit of time on this Saturday afternoon, going camera to camera, tracing his steps. And he's going around in the campers, he's checking doors, he's in some cases trying to jimmy doors open. It's just very clear that this guy
he's a problem.
It's a problem, absolutely. And so by this time, it's probably maybe 11 o'clock or noon. And I'm watching them on the cameras because, I don't know, I don't know if at this point I told them that they have to leave, but I don't even know if are they living there? Are they not? What's going on? Why was he in the facility that early? But by 1 o'clock, I remember it was 1 o'clock. I'm watching the cameras, and he's literally breaking into one of the tenants' cars. He's jimmied the door open, and he's got the door open, and then he popped the trunk, and he was literally unscrewing and removing the tire and the jack and everything from the back of the car. Middle of the day on a Saturday. So I'm like on the phone with Whiteland police. Dude, get down there. He's breaking into the car right now. This is where it's at. And then I actually watch on the camera as the cop pulls up, interviews the guy, handcuffs the guy, sits him down, chats with him. And so while he's cuffed, the cop calls me and says, hey, you know, I showed up. Yes, he was breaking into this car, but he goes, I don't know whether this car is his or not. I can't make an arrest.
What?
Right. He said, I said, well, can you escort him from the property? He goes, well, you know, I don't have any reason to believe that, you know, what has happened here is illegal. And I said, okay, well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to call the tenant of the car, the owner of the car, and he's going to meet you out there. And he goes, okay, well, he goes, if we do anything more, I really need you to be here. You're the owner. I need you to be here. And they say that a lot. They want the owner of the facility to be there. I said, okay, I'm getting in my car. It's going to be a 45-minute drive, but you cannot leave that guy there. That's a tenant's car. He's broken into that car. He's removed stuff from that car. In some cases, the stuff he removed is in the storage unit. So like he's stolen stuff from the car. Don't leave. So I drive down there, and it's a whole thing, right? I arrive, and you know, the young lady, it's very clear. They have a U-Haul there that they've emptied an entire, and that's a huge U-Haul. And the storage unit is packed, like top to bottom, side to side. They have a mini fridge in there. They have a heater in there. They have a couch. They have a TV. I mean, they've literally moved into this unit. And I was like, okay, no, you know, and I had printed off by that time, you know, notice to vacate. You have 30 days. We're going to restrict your gate access. You cannot leave, or you cannot have access to it without, you know, whatever. So police still refused to remove them, like cuff them and remove them or escort them. They refused. So I said, okay, well, I'm going to remove them, right? So I raised my voice and told them, get the hell out of here. You're not going to be allowed to stay here. Pack up your stuff, get out. You can come back tomorrow. Because by this time, I think it was like 3 or 4 o'clock. I want to say this almost Thanksgiving. Like this may even been like really close to Thanksgiving. And I'm just a little irritated by the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so they leave. And then the next day they come back. And I told them 9 to 5, daylight hours. And I was just going to let them in through the gate and have them on the camera and just watch them, or have one of my call center ladies watch them. But of course, you know, they wake up at 3 o'clock. They get to the gate at 4:30 and say, hey, we just want to grab some things. So I'm like, okay, you know, legally, I have to give them access to the facility within 9 to 5, because that's what the notice to vacate was. So they go in there, and I could just tell they don't have any plans on leaving by 5 o'clock, right? You know, by the time they got the door open, they drove in and got the door open. It was like 5:45 or 5:45. And then it's about 15 after 6. And I'm like, okay, seriously. So I'm texting them, get off the property. You told me you'd be gone, you know, blah, 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 blah. Not responding. So at this point, I'm pretty upset. I'm like,
You're hot.
I'm pretty hot. So I drive down there. And like I said, 30 to 45 minutes. So I get there probably 6:45. It's about this time that last year, about 6:45. So it's dark. It's getting dark pretty fast. And I pull up, and sure enough, they're still there, right? And I just lose it. I'm screaming at them. I'm probably using some vulgarity. Get the hell off my property. You know, you're in violation of your lease. You're not supposed to be living here. You know, you broke into that guy's car. You know, I'm not going to leave. You're not allowed to be on this property. The young lady that's with him, she's really just trying to make her way through the world. I think she's made some bad decisions in her life, namely the young guy that he's hanging out with. And he has no no issues breaking the law. Like he just doesn't believe that the law applies to him. So he's shooting his mouth off. I don't intimidate him at all. He's, so he and I are jawing each other, right? And I told him, I said, you're never going to come back to this property. I'm going to trespass you. I have all the video. And then the next time you come back to this property and you're on my property, they will arrest you. And I said, you're not ever coming back to this property. So I get what you need out of the unit now and get the hell out of here. And, he's shooting it off his mouth. Oh, this stuff is my stuff. I'll come back if I want to, blah, 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 blah. And I just keep on repeating myself. You're not coming back. You're not ever coming back. And so he's starting to get maybe a little agitated, but still, I don't know. But when I had arrived, they had, and all of this stuff is stolen. Like, I don't know. I don't have data to show that, but
you believe
it's brand new stuff. And these meth heads are, trucking around brand new stuff. So they had, those construction tarps where you can put all the, debris and stuff into these tarps.
Yeah. And
then rather than a dumpster, and then they'll come and you can pick that away. They had one of those heavy duty tarps, but they had huge pile of like implements, shovels, rakes, stuff like that. So when I had arrived, I didn't know what I was going to deal with. The cops weren't there. So I grabbed a shovel and I was like holding it kind of like this. I wasn't threatening him with it. I never threatened that I hit him with it. I never swung him with it. But like I was using it to some extent as a deterrent. Don't mess with me, right? So, finally get the young lady. She's like scared. She's really concerned because she thinks I'm going to either use the shovel or I don't know. But, my voice has a certain tone to it. So I'm raising my voice and I think it just startled her. And so she's in the car and this guy's still jawing at me. So I finally was like, okay, I've already said my piece to this idiot. He's, whether he heard it in me or not or whatever. So I was like, I'm done. So I walk around the car and my car is back in the back because I didn't want them scratching my car or breaking my windows. I didn't know what they do. So my car's way in the back. And so I start walking towards my car and I turn around and I'm talking to her. Get off my property. Do not bring him back. I will not let you back. And I'm talking to her and ignoring him. And I don't know if that upset him or what, but he pulls a gun on me. Now, this is an old gun, right? It's a sawed-off shotgun. It turns out that it's not loaded. I didn't know that at the time. And I look at him and I said, seriously? And he goes, yeah, fucking seriously. I'll kill you. I will kill you. And I was like, dude, over a storage unit. Seriously. I mean, there's probably $10,000 worth of stuff in there. Yeah. So maybe that's, his life savings or whatever.
It's like feelings.
I'm freaking out a little bit deep down inside. I was like, okay. So I threw down my shovel and I turned around and I was like, if I'm going to get shot, I'm going to get shot in the back. And I started walking towards my car and I could hear him get down into the car and close the door. And then I looked back over my shoulder. They pulled out and spun out. So I got in my car and I called the 911 immediately as soon as I got in the car. And of course, the cops were out there within seconds. And I basically tell them an abbreviated story of what I told you. This is what happened. I did have a shovel in my hand, didn't threaten them with it, blah, blah, blah. So credit to Whiteland PD. They found him pretty quickly. Now, they had an address that we thought that might be where they were staying or where,
I'm not giving any credit to Whiteland PD because they're the reason why this incident happened.
It really is. It really is. And you know what? That's when I told the district attorney or the ADA, I said, look, the only reason why this happened was because you guys refused
to get him off the property.
To get him off the property and trespass him in a way that he could not or would not come back.
Not only that, like he should have been trespassed then. They found him actively breaking into a car. They said they couldn't figure out that the car didn't belong to him. Bull fucking shit.
Yeah.
I'm going to find a VIN number and figure it the fuck out.
Yeah, right. They could have run the plates, the VIN number exactly.
Sorry for my language, but
Yeah.
coming from an ex-law enforcement officer, this really pisses me off.
Yeah.
So they whoever that officer was,
And this is what the officer told me.
I'd love to have a word
He
with.
said, "Well, we recommended charges to the
Okay.
district attorney, but you know, in cases like this, you know, the juice may not be worth the squeeze."
I don't
They
give a
basically
shit.
told me that they weren't going to charge him, and the tenant, and this was not the day that they pulled the gun on me, but the day before, when really all of this went down, I bet there was probably 5 cops, 3 cars out there. There's a presence out there. And so, you know, he told me, hey, we recommended charges, but whether they go ahead and prosecute, we don't have any control over that, right? And the tenant who came out to say, yeah, that's my car. He's like, I want to press charges. I don't want this to be up to the district attorney. I want to press charges. That's the guy. And I said, and I told the tenant, I said, I've got all the video. You tell me when you file charges, your attorney, I'll give you all the video, you know. And
we recommended charges is not how it works.
Yeah. So they wouldn't remove him from the property. And so you're exactly right. That's in my mind, that's why. And to be honest with you, that was a little bit of my like anger that evening was I'm not even going to bother calling the cops because what they're going to come out there and say, well, this is your problem.
Well, here's the thing. If he was properly trespassed, you could call the cops and he gets arrested on the spot. You don't have to make a ride.
Right.
A ride down there.
And I asked that I don't think they even, yeah, I don't know. I mean, it is a difficult thing from a legal perspective because she is on the lease.
Yeah.
And so she has legal rights to access that unit. The key thing was he could have been trespassed. She didn't have to. And the whole time, I'll give it to this young lady, I never saw any suspicious behavior out of her. She was just really just trying to get along, right?
Mm-hmm.
Never saw any suspicious behavior. It was all this guy. So anyway, one thing leads to another. They do end up charging him, and they asked me to.
Well, it only took first-degree assault, so.
Yeah,
Christ.
I don't know what they charged him with, but I went in and I had to testify. Well, I didn't testify. I gave a statement to his attorney and the district attorney. I had to give a statement that he verbally threatened me because in the state of Indiana, if I was unwilling to verbally to testify that he verbally assaulted me, then it's a misdemeanor and it would have been time served. And this guy, he has a rap sheet like years long. And
as soon as he raises a gun at you, that's first-degree assault.
Yeah. So
one would think.
Yeah, it was a felony. It was a felony, and he's still in jail now. I think it's Johnson County.
That's what I like to hear.
So yeah. So I mean, the lesson to this is number one.
It's not worth it.
It's probably not worth it.
Yeah.
It wasn't worth it for me. And if I would have gotten shot, it's a cautionary tale. Don't be trying to deal with these kinds of situations yourself.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, like, it was literally $280 a month that I was out. So they could have been there another 3 months. What would I have been out? $1,000.
Yeah.
You'll get by.
Yeah. In the grand scheme of things, it was
paid
more
$1,000.
Yeah. It was more about principle than anything. And that's, a character flaw on my part. It wasn't worth it going down there and trying to be, law enforcement myself. So we've had a couple situations down in Memphis that I learned a lot from this situation, and we were able to resolve it through the police because the police gave us the same line. We didn't want to deal with it. And I told them, I said, okay, you don't want to deal with it. This is what I'm going to do. I said, okay, we'll deal with it. And so they were more willing to play ball down there. But now my team, we monitor the cameras every day.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And if we see anybody strolling around at our facility in the middle of the night, that is a red flag, and we address it. We nip it in the bud very, very quickly.
There's something I hear in another podcast that I think really resonates here. Whether you're doing a single family home, whether you have a self-storage facility, it's be invested in your investments.
Yeah.
And you clearly are.
Yeah.
Maybe a little too much.
Maybe a little too much.
But Paul, I apologize, but we got to call this thing. I think we got to have you back on to get more story time with Paul.
Absolutely.
Next week.
Yeah. What
We can do next
run it
maybe
back
run
next
it back,
week?
but
Absolutely. I'll be a regular.
yeah, you can be a host.
I'm cool with that, dude.
What's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they want to learn more about self-storage or just to chat with you?
So my email address is Paul, Paul, at biggergarage.com. So Bigger Garage is like you have way too much stuff and you need a bigger garage.com.
That's awesome.
So it's a good way to get a hold of us. And then you can go check out our website, selfstorageunitsnearby.com. So there's some information on that website you can check out.
Awesome. Brooks, anything
Cool.
you want to pimp?
Not really. You can
right.
reach out to us and on this social media. It'll get to whoever it needs to go to. Honestly, if you want to get in touch with Max, Tyler, myself, Nick, Paul, whoever else has been on, reach out, DM us. We'll make sure it gets to the right person.
Awesome.
So-
Well, hope everyone has a good one and cheers.
Cheers, boys.
I'm out.
Oh, no.
Well, you got some right next to you.
Yeah.
I'll have to refill here.
I think I got Ryan next door. Let me go see if I'll
Yeah.
pull him over.
Okay.